Actually, what is this week?
Bigfoot week.
That's true. Sasquatch, skunk ape, yowie, yaren, yeti, Bigfoot. That's what we're talking about this week, man.
Yeah.
This line cracked me up. Bigfoot's not messing around anymore. I'm like, all this happened before you got here. Which once again goes to show, like you said, that
Because when he ripped the guy's arm off at the beginning, he was messing around.
Yeah.
He was like,
guys like walking away with a shredded like fucking dingus, and he's like, oh, no, and I just have poetry.
yeah, poetry in motion.
Oh, no.
What would you say?
I'd probably be screaming, not just being like, oh.
Monkey week.
Primate week. Actually, what is this week?
Bigfoot week.
That's true.
Bigfoot week.
Something's different about me. I've devolved.
You've gone ape.
As Koopa said. Monkey! Yeah. So,
You're more beast than man.
Sasquatch, skunk ape, yowie, yaren, yeti, Bigfoot. That's what we're talking about this week, man.
Yeah. Good choice.
Yeah. Buddy Shotz, this is the 88th episode, and we are officially into Halloween month.
Halloween week.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Bigfoots are like one of my favorite monsters.
Oh my god, I feel the evolution coming on.
And now my glasses are fucked for this podcast. Yeah. I don't know. Ground squirrels. How long have you been like a Bigfoot
My whole life.
Have you known, like, when was the first time you, like, knew
Yeah, I
about
told the
Bigfoot?
story once before, but, like, when I was in line at Kroger's, like, as a little kid, and I saw the Weekly World News, and it had a big picture of Bigfoot on the front, and I was like, my life was changed forever.
Yeah.
It's like, monsters do exist in this world.
Yeah.
It was horrifying, and I was really scared for a long time.
I think the first time I heard of Bigfoot was, on Unsolved Mysteries? Or, one of those kinds of shows, because there was, like, a big emerging thing around the 70s with, like, In Search Of for Leonard Nimoy, where he had, like, Bigfoot, and then there was, like, Unsolved Mysteries did, like, Bigfoot stuff, and then, like, there were shows that were just too paranormal, like Sightings and other stuff. And that's kind of like, I would rent any tape I could on, like, Bigfoot from Blockbuster, which there weren't a lot back then, but now they're everywhere. Everybody's got a Bigfoot, story to tell.
Yeah, and I've always sought out Bigfoot movies, and they're almost always all terrible. So we'll find how we did this week with our selections.
Which are?
Night of the Demon.
Yes.
And Willow Creek.
Yes.
The sequel to Willow.
It's not really. I had to process that. I was like, what? I'm like, you're right. They do exist. So, I don't know many people that probably haven't heard of Sasquatch, but Sasquatch or Bigfoot got, like, its big start with, like, the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah, I know one person who's seen him and filmed him.
Mr. Bob Gimlin himself.
October 20th, 1967. Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin got 952 frames of truth, and that's all the proof I need. Great song.
Thank you for blessing us with that song from the movie. Yeah. You didn't just make that up.
I wrote that.
I'm like, you and it's like, dude, yes. So I don't know, what is there to say about Bigfoot other than
it's a scary monster, and like it's almost all cultures have their version of Bigfoot.
Right. In the Himalayan region, there's the Yeti, kind of like the Arctic version of, kind of like what's it called?
The abominable snowman.
Yeah, a snow bear, essentially. Like, I don't know what the fuck it's called. What's it called? A bear that's white?
Polar bear?
Yeah, polar bear. Thanks. Snow bear.
Snow bear.
Snow bear. But it's like, yeah, you always hear, it's like coated in white fur and stuff to blend in. It's like Wampa.
Yeah.
So, but a little history. David Thompson is sometimes credited with the first discovery in 1811 of a set of Sasquatch footprints. And ever since then, there's been hundreds of footprints, plaster casts made. I'm sure there's probably a better way to do it now, but I've personally never been out looking for a Bigfoot. I don't know if you have either.
You haven't gone squatching?
No, I haven't.
When I was younger, like, we went for a family vacation to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Kind of like where Willow Creek takes place. And, like, it was cool to see all the statues of Bigfoot and stuff like that, because they're all about it out there.
Yeah. It's kind of like Area 51.
Yeah.
With, like, aliens, which is next week.
Alien week.
Yeah. So, I guess the question is, do you believe in Bigfoot?
No.
Yeah.
But I want to believe, like Mulder once said. But I will say, like,
they killed him.
we're like, you done.
They're like, he's like diplomatic immunity. And they're like,
there's lots of, even in this country, lots of wilderness out there.
That's true. There
where
is
something could be hiding.
Something or someone. It's like,
do you?
If I'm going to be 100% honest, it's hard for me to say this, but no, I don't believe. And I don't believe that it's possible at this point that Bigfoot could still be out there and not have been ever captured. But I think it was a lot easier for people to be like, Bigfoot exists in like the 70s when people didn't have a camera on their phone. And that was like the golden age of Bigfoot and just like cryptids in general. Is like you could be like, this happened, and you know, it's all hearsay, or maybe you could doctor a photo, or like you could capture something on film that looks like something, and it might not even be doctored, but there was really no way to, like, you know, disprove.
Yeah. But as we've both experienced, when you're out in the woods, like, your mind can play tricks on you.
Right.
So, especially when you're afraid.
Yeah. Especially when you're up at a cabin and you hear, like, hell happening outside, and it's just a raccoon eating a whole bottle of Tylenol and dying. He's like, ball with the ball, the ding, 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 ding. Oh! But does Bigfoot scare you?
When I was a little kid, I was terrified. It was like the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I would lay in bed at night, like, thinking about it and being terrified.
I think for me, like, the idea is still, like, I don't know, like, not the idea, but, like, just in general, like, if I was out in the woods by myself, I probably would start freaking the fuck out. Maybe. I mean, I probably would at night, especially, like, it's also, like you said, I mean, like, you let your mind kind of get away from you and stuff. But speaking of Bigfoot and the original big people that really shot him into success, Bob Giblin and Patterson, we met Mr. Gimlin. He's still alive. He's still kind of touring when he can and stuff.
Quite a character.
Yeah. He's like an old, like, rodeo cowboy, kind of like grizzled, that he's either like, I don't know, he seems to have had this experience, and he's kind of like
does he?
Well, he seems to have had this experience, or he's like just been an actor his whole life, essentially. He seemed like genuine, but at the same time, like, he seems to like kind of like really enjoy the fame. So, which is weird, because for the longest time he didn't do conventions. Like, he just recently, within the last couple of years,
he was like, whoa,
for the longest time. He's like, Bigfoot sucks my. Just kidding. Yeah, like, when I met him, you know, and I think it's the same way for you. He's just like super enthusiastic to meet fans, and I think it's just being an older gentleman, and having all these people talk to you like you're somebody is like holy. Because most times it's like, you know, just kind of don't get that sort of recognition as you age. I went dark. So yeah, I mean, he's a cool dude. He kind of like, it was weird because when I met him with you, he was like, you told him you believed him, and he was just like, I did see Bigfoot, and it was like, okay.
Like, I already told you I believe him. You don't have to convince me again.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. But the whole phenomenon of Bigfoot is impossible to ignore. And in fact...
And it's something we should explore.
In this podcast.
Yep.
Do you have any... I guess before we get into the movies, because we have a double feature, no top fives this week and no weird watches, because the weird watches are the films this week. And for the whole month. Do you have any tales to tell, even though I'm sure we'll tell tales throughout the whole...
Nope.
Okay.
I'm anxious to get into the meat, the Bigfoot meat.
The beat. I'm not even going to switch over to nerd news here, but I just had like one piece of thing that I had. It's all horror related, and I was pretty pumped to talk about this. And did you ever play like the Onimusha games back in the day, or the first one? I remember I've talked about this.
I think
before.
I watched you play it for a little while.
But they're making like a show based on that. That's actually, which is pretty exciting, just for the fact that they haven't done anything with the series in like 10 to 20 years. So maybe if it is successful, Capcom will see that people are interested in actually making another game. So,
well, adaptations of video game series,
they'll never be
turn out
bad
great every time.
Yeah. But the only thing that I'm kind of excited about is like there's actually like Takeshi Mike and a couple other people involved.
Okay.
With actually
He's
directing
cool, dude.
it and stuff. So, so which one do you want to do first?
Up to you. Dealer's choice.
Well, I'll do October 1st, and we'll see. Okay, Willow Creek.
Willow Week.
I think this one's probably a better one to get out of the way, because the other one is like ridiculous. Maybe I should pick the other one since my notes for Willow Creek are second. Okay, so Willow Creek. I guess before I really go into the details of this, how did you come about this?
I remember when it came out 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about it coming, and I was super excited about it because the premise was basically Blair Witch, but with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Which is like two great flavors. Taste great together. And
Yes.
I heard Bobcat Goldthwait was directing it. I'd seen a couple of his other movies.
Yeah, what
which
else has
were
he
great.
done, which I didn't even know he was a director. The only thing I know him from is, obviously Stand Up, and then he voiced like one of the characters in Hercules. My favorite Disney movie.
He directed World's Greatest Dad with Robin Williams. Remember that dark comedy?
Oh, the one. Yeah. I won't say anything about it, but it's a great movie.
Yeah. Another one called Let Sleeping Dogs Lie, I think, or something like that. But basically, he made a bunch of dark comedies
Nice.
up until this. So I think he's a really good director.
Yeah, I didn't really know about that. That's pretty legit.
So yeah, I saw it and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I've told you about it, and I've been wanting you to see it ever since.
Yeah. So this came out in 2013, and as we talked about, it was written and directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, whatever. And it stars Alexie Gilmore and Bryce Johnson, a couple who got into the woods of Willow Creek. Not God. Looking for material for the documentary on Bigfoot lore. So you said earlier, a blend of Bigfoot and Blair Witch. It's definitely Blair Witch.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the exact same thing. It's the same setup and same
right
execution, basically.
But it's like it's hard to not make a comparison to Blair Witch, because it's essentially like the first film to do the found footage, and now that's like, for a while there, that was like a ton of movies were doing it. Yeah. I guess before we get into the notes, how many times have you seen this film?
I've probably seen this maybe 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
I watched it with the commentary,
okay.
which was really good.
Nice.
But
who's on the commentary? Like
Bobcat. Yep. Highly entertaining, and he pointed out things that I didn't notice, and like each time I see it, I notice a few new things.
Nice.
So, which we'll get into. But.
Nice. I'm glad that you have expertise on that, because I don't have the physical version of it, sadly. That might change though. So we're going into this with a premise of the girlfriend is a skeptic, and the boyfriend is like a true believer. He's like, this is the Mulder and Scully situation here. But that might change. They bring up the age-old debate of why has no one ever found a dead Bigfoot? And he says, well, have you ever seen a dead anything in the woods? And she says, actually, I don't remember what she says, but...
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's a valid question.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. I've seen all kinds of dead animals in the woods before. And, like, bones, and, like, it's very... Yeah.
It is, like, really weird because it's, like... Even if, like, humans, like, if we lived out in the woods and, like, say, like, an alien or a highly advanced, like, life form came to the world and just, like, was looking around, they would find, like, our, like, corpses all over the place unless we were ritualistically burying them someplace. Even then, they would find signs of...
The mounds.
Yeah. Willow Creek sign. River fun in the mountain sun.
So I loved, like, basically all of the locations that they go to. Like, they're either, like, cool wooded, like, areas in the mountains or, like, interesting towns where there's Bigfoot.
Right.
Like, you can see the legend of Bigfoot all around you. Like, it made me want to go visit all the places that were in this movie.
We should. We should make a film about it.
But I think I'm going to skip the Bigfoot burger because it looked gross.
Couldn't be any worse than the Bush Burger. Owner begins work on Bush Burger. It's like, lettuce. It's like, okay.
Yeah, the Bigfoot burger looked cool, but it was way too much bread.
They were talking it up.
Yeah.
It looked more like a hoagie than an actual burger.
Yep. And the bread was, like, way too thick. The ratio looked all off to me.
Fuck burgers. Fuck the elderly.
What's your problem with burgers?
No, I was just kidding.
Okay.
I guess it was interesting because they were like, I don't know why I thought this was weird, but, like, funny, where he says they hold a gun to your face if you don't order their Bigfoot burger. I was like, dude, that's, like, weirdly, like, just a weird thing to say. Like, it was funny, but it was also like, holy shit. But speaking of that, like, I think the sandwich debate is often raged between, like I don't know, like, to me, I completely agree with you with, like, how big and, like, long the sandwich was. I don't know if I wouldn't classify that like a burger anymore. I would have said, like, that kind of reminds me of, like, a Penn Station kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because Penn Station also has, like, the big bread and stuff. Big bread! So
what do you think of, like, the main characters, both the characters themselves and the performances?
So, like, the beginning of the movie, I was, like, not really thinking it was super great. But, like, once they got to, like, this, like, the diner where they had, like, the Bigfoot burger, that's when it, like, started getting actually believable for me. Before that, I don't know what it was. It was just, like, the conversation in the car wasn't really, like, I don't know, it seemed kind of forced. But it was, like, once they got here, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, because they're, like, they're talking over food and, like, having conversation, and it seemed natural. And it continued to be natural throughout the rest of the film, in my opinion. Which is something that's very hard to do, because we went back and watched Blair Witch, and there was plenty of stuff in that film that I felt like was great, and then I felt there was plenty of stuff in that film that felt kind of forced, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to be serious and come off believable, and, like, literally they're the only two main actors in this, and with Blair Witch it's like literally there's three actors for the most part, and it's like you have to come off like you're natural, and, like, people believe these people actually have some sort of relationship, you know, whether it be a couple, friends, like, you know, that kind of thing. So I thought overall they did, like, a really good job.
Cool. Yeah, I agree.
I like the woman more than the guy, personally. I thought she was, like, more believable. But I think it was mainly just the stuff the guy was saying was just stuff I would never say, like the way he acted. And not stuff that I thought was like, oh, nobody would ever say that, but it was just like when he did his like introductory stuff and his stuff on camera, it just seemed like really forced. But I guess he was also like trying to be like a host. But I don't know. We're hosts, and I feel like we would never say that kind of stuff. But anyway, what were you going to say?
I agree. Like at the beginning, it was like I wasn't quite sure that they were nailing the reality part of it.
Right.
But once it got going,
yeah,
it totally did. And like that's the one thing I've noticed this time watching it was like the world has changed quite a bit since this came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So like the ideas of toxic masculinity and like mansplaining and stuff are totally what his character is in this movie. He's like mansplaining the whole time.
Yeah, he's being he's like being an asshole.
Yeah, he thinks he's cool, but he's really not.
He's also like being an asshole because she doesn't believe in Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like what else could it be? It's like, dude, there are like, I can count on one hand the number of things it could be, and somebody that had more than a couple seconds could come up with a, idea of what it is. Excuse me for cleaning my glasses, but just the nature of the beast when you put on a mask.
The beast.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I really enjoyed, was basically their interactions and the fact that basically you get to watch a relationship like dissolve. Like the relationship is not strong enough to handle what goes down in this movie.
Well,
which is interesting.
I guess once we get to it, it's not really the relationship. It's more so their lives.
You can tell this is not meant to be. Like, when she rejects his proposal.
Well, that was... I mean, I've known
it's not gonna work
plenty of people that have had that happen to them. I don't know if I personally would stay with somebody if they rejected, me proposing to them. But I've definitely known people that, like, that's happened to them and then they've gone on to continue with the person. But I agree with you, like... I think that's maybe just finding your style is different from some people. Definitely for sure, like, I feel the same way, like, if I, like, was, like, proposed to somebody, and they were like, let's think about it, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe this isn't...
Yeah. But also, like, there's a little touch where,
little touch?
She says something like, oh, this place is scary, I'm scared of this place, and he's like, you'll be fine. Just like little touches like that, or like he's just a jerk, and he's wrong because
I mean, like there's no denying, regardless of the relationship status, that this guy's an asshole. But, like it's like right before kind of like what happens in the end, the climax. They seem to kind of like come to some agreement about where their future is going, and he resolves to do this for her in exchange for this, but then obviously like what he wanted was not obtained, but like freaking earlier in this film they talk about donuts and coffee, and I don't know why this reminded me of like there's this story of like a guy that was kidnapped by Bigfoot. Have you ever heard about that? So like it was in 19...
He drove up in a van and was like, hey, kid.
He's like,
want some candy?
1924, a guy named Albert Osman essentially got scooped up in like his like sleeping bag, and for 5 hours he got like... He was essentially in this sleeping bag, and then like the Bigfoot like poured him out in front of like the Bigfoot family. And, like, it was, like, the Bigfoot wife and the Bigfoot daughter and, like, the Bigfoot son. And he spent, like, 6 days with them. And the only way he escaped is by, like, feeding the large, like, the dad Bigfoot, like, snuff. And it, like, got sick and he ran away. So...
Should make a movie about that.
Yeah. I don't know. They probably well, I don't know if they have. But, like, it was something that... the funniest thing about this is, like, I saw this where some guy says... John Napier, a primatologist, claimed that the story was simply not possible because an entire family of Sasquatch would not have the resources to survive in that particular area, as the food sources would be too limited.
That sounds because
that's the one thing that I would be like, man, I'm a primatologist, and Bigfoot's. How do you fucking know what Bigfoots even eat? Like he's like, as we know, Bigfoots, they can't survive without I thought that was just ridiculous. Out of the whole story, that's the one thing the guy was like.
That sounds like what you'd read on like IMDb goofs.
Yeah. Internet Movie Database.
Yeah.
Goofy. Good lord.
So, I think most of the people, like the townsfolk in this movie, are amateur actors or like real locals, with the exception of Peter Jason. Did you notice him?
Who was he?
He's the guy that told the story about the dog.
Oh, yeah.
He's in a lot of like John Carpenter movies. He was the guy in Prince of Darkness who was like.
I think he's the only person besides the two actors in the beginning, or like the two main actors that were actually like, you know, it was actually like, okay, this guy's actually like telling a story, and it works. Not that I thought other people in it didn't work, but like you had the one guy that was just shouty and warned them and threatened them, and it's like, okay, that's not really a hard thing to play, just somebody that yells and stuff. But that guy, like, yes, they gave that guy essentially like the most time, the screen time to actually tell a tale and stuff.
Yeah.
They had an old lady that essentially like doesn't believe in Bigfoot, but she like works at the place.
It's a great interview. This
just
documentary is going to be great.
Yeah, she's just like an old lady. And there's a dude that like talks about the curse of Bigfoot, saying, "Divorce. Nobody believes you. Spend your days searching for something you'll never find." And then you already talked about the guy that sings the song about Roger and Bob.
I love that scene.
I don't know what that guy's name was, but I'm like, what was that guy's name?
Some random dude in a bar in
Yeah.
California. Or Washington? What state is this in? California.
California, yeah, because that's where like Bluff Creek and all that stuff happened. Like you said, the Northwest or whatever.
I think the like scenes before they get to the actual woods could have used one more could have used a little bit more creepy touches. Like,
yeah,
I was wishing for in Blair Witch where they meet that old crone.
Yeah,
who my theory is she is the Blair Witch, but like,
yeah,
it needed a little bit more set up stuff like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I felt like by the time you get to the woods, like you're just like, come on, like I don't know, like I felt like. And only because there wasn't, like you said, there wasn't that, like, thing where it's like you needed, like you needed one more story like the guy told about his dog. And, like...
something to really get you scared.
Well, at least one or two, because, like, by the time you get there, it's like, you just want to get out to the woods and stuff, but not because you're anticipating, like, you know, the scariness. It's because you're like, these interviews have been fucking dog shit. Not because they were, not because I was like, this sucks, but because it was like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't really building any tension. Obviously, with a Bigfoot movie going into the woods, it's like, what's going to happen? But, but I agree. Yeah, it would have been nice to have some more tension building stuff. I would have placed that one dude, like, almost towards the beginning of the interviews, and then kind of sprinkled a couple other ones like that throughout, because they kind of had something like that where they're like making fun of Bigfoot, and then that guy's like, don't do that. But it was like, it was mainly just kind of like they were like treated him like a little bitch. They were like, go away, and he's like left. It's like that would have been the time to like double down and make that guy kind of have like a thing, in my opinion. But they have another discussion about the validity of Bigfoot, and they're once again on opposite sides of the spectrum. Yeah, the guy that was a ranger for years talks about his dog that got munched by Bigfoot. But he walks it back. I mean, it's one of those things where I guess like they were in contact with him, but then when they finally get there, he's like, yeah, he's like, well, you said this and you said that in our like interview or like on our email correspondence, and he's like, I don't know what it was, and it's like you can tell like he's hiding something, which is cool. But that's probably why they gave that guy like the most stuff. So, yeah.
So the centerpiece of this movie, and pretty much the one thing that I'll never forget, is the classic 19-minute long single take scene when they're in the tent.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of that?
I thought it had its ups and downs for me. I thought that it reached a point where it was kind of okay, get on with it. But then when it finally did, it was great. But if I was making this film personally, I would have been watching it and been like, okay, this is we need to maybe cut this part out or do another take where it's a little shorter at the beginning, because once it gets going, it's awesome and it continues that what the hell's out there kind of thing. But before that, they're literally sitting in the tent, just nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nothing's happening. You don't even hear anything, and it's okay, which I feel like there's a what's the word? There's a precipice that you get to with something like that, where the tension gets to a point where you lose it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it I don't think it ruined anything. I just kind of thought that it could have been done a little better. But
okay, yeah, I mean, I disagree slightly, because I think that's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie, even though it's pretty much just two people sitting in a tent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes balls to put that in your movie. And for me, it works every time. Even though I know what's going to happen, I'm totally riveted and on the edge of my seat. I think it's that's movie magic
mm-hmm.
to me, and it's super scary.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrifying scene.
Yeah.
And it's mainly driven just by sound.
Yeah.
It sounds so cool and realistic, because it is real.
Once they actually started doing stuff, it was good. But for a long time, there wasn't anything. It wasn't a long time, but it felt like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it kind of lost me for a second. But it got me back, so it was good. But I think it's like I said, since I edit stuff, and it's a different thing. I mean, everybody has their own way of editing stuff. Obviously, I would have edited differently. He did, or filmed it differently, but it's his film, and from watching and doing that stuff, that's just how I felt when I was watching it. I was just
mm-hmm.
kind of looking around the room, ugh. But only until there's a certain point at which
You're
the tent gets fucking slapped. And when that happens, it's from that point on, the next however so minutes they're in that tent is legit. But there are some noises that happen before that, which is legit. But then there's probably a couple minutes where literally there's no noises, and they're just which is, like I said, for me, it's awesome. But then it gets to a point where I was did they forget to cut something here? But
yeah,
I agree with you.
To me,
once
this,
it gets
this
to that
scene
point,
makes
it's
the
super...
movie. Without the scene,
for
it would
sure.
just be totally forgettable.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And the first time I heard the howl,
yeah,
my blood turned to ice. It ran cold. It's scary stuff, man. To me, at least, that's it doesn't get any scarier than that.
Yeah, that stuff. I don't know. I don't get scared easily with that kind of stuff, but when you hear it, it's definitely it's not something you'd ever want to hear. Yeah. Ever.
You're nice music.
I'm this is not scary. What is this?
This is pleasant.
Yeah. It's no, I agree with you 100% on that. Regardless of the way that it was done, it still had the same intended effect on both of us. We both found it to be the best scene by far in the movie.
Cool. Have you ever heard the Ohio Howl? The famous Ohio Howl? I looked it up, and that's chilling to listen to as well. It's
I might edit in a Bigfoot howl here, because I was going to bring it up on my phone, but I couldn't find it at the time, and I didn't want to waste time here. So I'm this is recorded, so that we can't just pause it. But I'll probably put it in here somewhere.
So what did you think of the decision not to really ever see Bigfoot?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really... So there's a dual thing with that. You can show it and it can look like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can show it and it'll look awesome. But it's also like, I feel like either way is valid. Either you have to show it and it look awesome and take responsibility for the fact that you're gonna do not the Blair Witch thing where like you won't show something but like it'll just be implied, which is like, I mean, that's the whole reason why that film works.
Yep.
Or you can go the route of showing it and it looks like shit and it's like Blair Witch 2. Or like the third option, which is the rare option where you actually show it and it's like, oh my god, this is horrifying. But that's super rare. And I don't know what their budget was, and if it wasn't enough to like do it right, that was the best option by far. And I think it was fine. I wasn't like, after the movie was over, I wasn't like, I want to see the fucking Bigfoot, because there's plenty of movies out there that have like Bigfoot shown, as in our next film.
I agree. I mean, kind of like you do want to see a Bigfoot in your Bigfoot movie, but this, like, you see enough between the hand poking at the tent, like the classic Bigfoot print at the end.
There's a part where like they're running in broad daylight, and like there's one like camping in a bush at Call of Duty, and he's like, and she's like, that was legit. I mean, like, obviously I have criticisms, but like, I can't really think of a better serious Bigfoot movie I've seen, to tell you the truth, that actually comes across as, scary. Obviously, like Harry and the Hendersons is like one of my like favorite. But it's like a kid's movie and it's not scary. It's like, and it has great effects, but like, I'm not like, put it up there with Willow Creek for scariest film, like Bigfoot.
I really do like that Abominable one that we watched, but that's more of like a slasher.
Okay, so that
movie.
One, it's kind of like our second one. What'd you think about the bare-ass dude? He like jumped in the river and I was just like,
it looked cold.
Yeah. Bare asses. PGF stands for Patterson Gimlin Film. The PGF site. He says, like, we need to go to the PGF site. And I'm like, why would you say the Patterson Gimlin film site? He said film twice.
Like ATM machine?
Yeah.
You called him out, man.
I called him out, and now this movie is a 0. I just thought that was funny. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, where he pops the question, and she's just like she looked happy, but it was like, it took so long that you knew something was up, and that's when she was just like, not happy.
Yep.
Yeah, this part where the guy's like, once again, shows how much of an asshole he is, right after they kind of like, they're like, oh, our compromise and, our relationship is now more solid than ever. He goes, do I need to tell you what this is? And I'm like, are you a fucking asshole? Like, at this point, there's still, like, it's still a number of things that this could be. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, this guy's point of view is, like, fact. And it's, like, obviously, like, everybody's been guilty of that. But it's like, the way he, like, I guess, treats her in this is like, why is she, like, with this guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this one's going to work out.
Especially won't.
Bigfoot or otherwise.
I think Bigfoot made sure of that.
So I thought that was the cool kind of twist about this movie, is basically she gets turned into a forest bride.
Yeah, because earlier in the film, like, when they're in, like, you hear crying, and I guess, should we just move on to, like, talking about that? Where, like, at the end of the film, you see the person that was crying, and it's, like, a naked lady, essentially. But you never see Bigfoot, you just see that, and, like, the dude essentially gets, like, reamed.
Yeah.
And then you hear her
R.I.P.
still alive, and, yeah, she gets turned into, like, essentially another one of his, like, wives.
And that was one of the really cool touches that I didn't notice until Bobcat pointed it out, but when they're in the Bush or Bigfoot Burger restaurant,
where they're in the Bigfoot bush,
you see a missing persons poster, like, full frame with that girl on it. So, like,
I never noticed
a little bit of
that's legit.
little bit of setup there.
It's one of those things where, like, it's obviously something you would never realize the first time you saw it, but, like a lot of movies that, like, either a movie's really good or it's really good because it has things that you can come back and see again. Like, you know, it's like knowing the twist at the end of certain movies. You watch it in a different light, and if it's a good enough movie, it won't ruin it. If it's a movie where it's like the twist is the whole thing, then you're like, okay, like straight to DVD schlock. That was probably one of the scariest things. Is the crying. It's like, what the fuck is this about?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is this about? Bullshit.
I heard you crying out there.
She's like, I'm like, huh?
But I do love it. Maybe the last line of the movie, but he says basically, "I effed up." Like he realizes, and I love any movie that ends with that.
He says, "I fucked up." It's like, what happened, Riley? You fucked. Yeah, it was. It was like the true horror cliche. He didn't listen.
Yep.
And he fucked up.
And it did crack me up where there is a
fucked.
scare where he thinks he hears something, but it's a raccoon, and he freaks out, Mike style.
The raccoon's like...
Classic raccoon scare.
Yeah. Raccoons get me, and then I see him, and I'm like, yee. Raccoons are, like, adorable.
They are cute little dudes.
Yeah.
Even though they're bandits.
They're like... doo-doo. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think sounds like we both pretty much like this movie.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but like, as I said with Blair Witch, like I love any movie that takes place in the woods.
Yeah.
This movie comes in at what, like 80 minutes? It's like short and sweet. I think it's entertaining the whole time. Good movie. I highly recommend it.
I was like, I'm not a perfect Bigfoot. I'd say if anybody's looking for a good like documentary style horror film, they should check this out. There's plenty of films out there that are like this that you can skip, and they made a fuck ton of them right after Blair Witch, and they were almost all shit. This one isn't one of them. This one was done really well. Like you said, it's not perfect. It's not something like there are things that I find like, you know, it's not something that's so egregious that I'm like, fuck this movie. But it like just, you know, you could totally disagree with this, and like obviously like that's totally fine. Right after what happens, and it's like a horrifying thing at the end of the movie, they play like a rock version of like the Roger and Bob thing, and that kind of like takes away the tension. At least for me, like
I enjoyed that. I thought it was funny.
I think it like takes away from the ending by instantly moving you to not think of the horror of like what, like make you think about like literally this lady is now going to be like sexually like a sexual slave to Bigfoot. As ridiculous as that sounds, they treat it in such a serious manner that it like that's the true horror of this for me. And like I said, that it's not enough for me to be like that ruins the whole. It's, you know, it's not like a law-abiding citizen where I was just like bullshit. It was just kind of like a thing that happens after the fact once the film's over. That I was just like, it's his movie, it's his decision. I possibly could have gone that way too if I made the film, you know, by putting something like that at the end of the film. But I think as like a viewer coming off of like, holy crap, what did I just witness? You know, with that and the implications, it doesn't give you like a breath to like take it all in. But I didn't take like any points off for it. So, like I said, it's a choice.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Nice choicing.
It would have been better if it's like,
ooh, it was essentially every straight-to-DVD horror movie back in the day. And I almost wonder if that's what he was going for. Because it was like, you know, they play like some ridiculous song at the end. Like once, you know, the last frame, it's just like, ball with the ball, the dang.
Yeah, I mean, I feel differently about credits. Like, I wish every movie had like bloopers in the credits, but I know that would be like stupid for like most movies. But I don't care.
Well,
I love it. I love a good, fun credits. So.
Well, that's the thing is like, there's nothing wrong with that, but like, you don't give the audience like a minute to take in what you've witnessed. It's kind of like, a waste, in my opinion. But I agree with you. I would love to see like bloopers, or like to have like back when they used to do like songs about like the whole like the movie like MC Hammer and stuff, where he would describe what you fucking just watched, like the Addams Family, like that kind of thing. And of course that's kind of what they do here, but obviously the Addams Family isn't like, I'm not like reeling from the implications of what happened at the end of the Addams Family, and they're like, you rang, they do what they want to do, say what they want to say, and I'm like, holy shit.
That reminds me of, have you ever seen Being There with Peter Sellers?
No.
It's one of his last movies that he made, and it's a great movie, but it has a controversial ending because, like, basically the movie ends like something, I won't spoil it, but like very magical happens at the end, and you're like, whoa, this is like the best movie I've ever seen in my life. Whoa. And then the credits actually has bloopers of him like cracking up in the middle of takes because he like can't get through a line, and he was furious about that, and he said that like cost him the Oscar.
Oh, because like they did that
because it's a comedy, but it's also like a drama,
right?
But to me, like to me that makes it even better. Like, have some fun, watching him crack up.
Yeah, I mean,
even though it's a serious movie.
Yeah, they used to do that a lot more. Like back in the day, like Rush Hour had them every time, and it definitely was a thing that would happen. Like with comedies, they would like show like, or like Jackie Chan films. Here are all the times Jackie Chan almost got fucking murdered doing these stunts, that kind of stuff. And like I agree with you on that for sure. And people can do whatever they want with their movies. Obviously, I mean, I'm just like a critic. I didn't make the film, but like I just feel like it definitely takes away from like the shock of this particular film. But I could feel completely different about the Peter Sellers one. It just, you know what I mean. And it's not like something that I was like, they ruined my favorite movie by putting this at the end, you know what I mean? Like, I think that if, like, this was, like, I don't know, a different mood, I would have felt differently. But maybe not, I don't know. Like, it's a case-by-case basis with all these films, you know what I mean? So, I think I was just, like, wholly, like, reeling from the, I was like, from the end. Yeah. By the end. So, what do you give this film?
I'm going to go 8.95.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Really like it.
I give it like a 7. Respectable.
Cool.
Decent. In fact, it's monstrous. Yeah, great film, man. I'm glad you recommended this. This was a good one. I'd never heard of it, and I'm glad that you recommended it because that's what this podcast is all about, watching stuff like I've never, not only watched, but never even heard of.
Yeah, like Ishtar.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 2 hours we'll never get back.
That's true. But speaking of 2 hours, or maybe it was maybe it was less.
I hope it was less. Night
of the Demon, our
Night of the Demon,
second feature for the week of Bigfoot Word. So, are you ready to talk about this film as I scroll up looking for my notes?
I was born ready.
So go over like how'd you like hear about this? Because I think.
Well, I mean, I've been trying to, like I said earlier, I want to see every Bigfoot movie.
Yeah.
So over the years I've always tried to read about like what Bigfoot movies are out there and see them, and I think I got a bootleg of this maybe at a convention.
Yeah, because for the longest time this was not.
Whoa, whoa. Sorry, I can't help it.
No, you can do it every time. I love that song. It's just every time you do it, I laugh. It's just like, damn it, I messed up. It's like back when I would like start the podcast and I would be like, "Are you ready?" Or did I ever do that? Or was it
probably?
Yeah. But for the long,
for a while.
Yeah, for an extended period of time. This film was not...
Never had a release.
Yeah, without an official release, because when this film also came out, it was, like, branded as a, like, video nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's true, it's a video that's nasty.
That's nasty. It's just one of those deals where it kind of got a raw deal on release, but now, like, who is it? Vinegar Syndrome? Or not Vinegar
Synapse?
Yes, Synapse. What? Yeah. Vinegar Syndrome. What is that? Is that an actual one too? Okay. There's a bunch of these things that we when we go to conventions, we've seen, you know, obviously there's like Shout Scream Factory, there's Vinegar Syndromes, you know, this one, it's like, there's a couple people that have, or a couple companies that have taken over, like where Anchorberry kind of left, which is legit as hell. But having said that, they came out with this version, kind of recently, right?
Yeah, I think it was this year.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been like, because this came out in 1980, so it's been a long time since there's, you know, been an official deal with this. But this is essentially, we talked about it earlier about Abominable being a slasher, and that's essentially like Bigfoot goes through people in this and stalks and systematically slaughters them.
Not only slaughters, he does other things as well.
Oh, that's true. We'll definitely.
What things are they? I won't tell.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to thank you for getting me a copy of this, because
Yeah.
you got me a copy of this, and I was just like,
You're welcome.
this is what kind of started off the whole, you know.
This is one you need to own,
Yeah.
or do you? We'll figure that out.
Well, I said yeah because you got it for me. I didn't want to spit in your face for buying me a fucking movie.
You're like, because I threw it in the trash after watching.
I'm like, fuck you. But I what was I gonna say?
So basically, this
yeah.
is a very low budget, like totally campy, kind of sleazy horror movie.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know if I've seen a movie that was. I will say that I probably have seen movies that felt like they were shot with less money, but all of them I rented from Blockbuster or like Hollywood Video back in the day, like straight to DVD, and that's definitely what this felt like. Like, some of the acting in this was like, oh my god,
Amateurish at best.
yeah. It wasn't like out of control enough to be like Troll 2. Where, like, obviously the people weren't even, like, actors. They were, like, this one dude's, like, a dentist, and it's, like, you know, it works for the film. It was, like, I think these people were trying, and that's the hardest part.
So basically, to sum it up, this movie is infamous amongst Bigfoot movies because it's, like, the Bigfoot movie that has extreme gore in it.
Right.
Which is out of control.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, this would be another kind of standard run-of-the-mill low-budget monster movie.
It's funny because, like, it's extreme gore, but it's extreme gore for the time, especially because, especially if you compare it to extreme gore now, it is still like gore, but it's not like as out of control. But it's also because of the effects that were done and stuff.
So, what were your overall thoughts on Night of the Demon?
I was happy to have watched it, I guess. It definitely wasn't like, I don't know if it's anything I would ever recommend anybody to actually sit through and watch, personally.
I would recommend it to horror fans. Like, I think
they're used to watching shit.
No, I think it's worth watching, and like, this movie, by the end, to me, it becomes so horrific. Like, when I was a little kid, this is what I imagined horror movies were like. Like, when he's literally flinging intestines around the room, and it's like weird,
that was like laughable,
slow motion, and like the sound is distorted. I'm like, this is creepy. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, but
I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's cool. I was laughing at that stuff because it was so like he's essentially like holding it up to the camera, like check this shit. But I liked it.
I think it's like, I'll always remember like the rampage at the end of this, the Bigfoot rampage at the end of this movie, where he basically rips everyone apart, and it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ridiculous stuff that like happens throughout this film and at the end, which we're definitely going to get into. I already knew what, like, at the beginning of the film, it's like I knew exactly what kind of film we were in for. I was in for because there's a dude in a hospital scene that screams of reshoots, and he's supposedly disfigured, but he's got like a ninja mask over the bottom part of his face, which screams of either the guy didn't come back or they needed to do voiceovers or something happened because...
Well, you're totally right, because I watched all the bonus content and the commentaries on this, and that is what happened. And when they made this movie, none of the gore stuff was in it, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, this movie is weak and tame, we need to like spice this up, so they reshot like that opening scene and all the gore stuff.
Oh, wow.
Which basically, to me, makes this movie.
That also makes a lot more sense because a lot of the stuff isn't interwoven into the actual plot. It's like...
The plot makes no sense at all.
This professor is telling stories of things he heard of people being absolutely reamed, but he didn't tell his students till, like, they were already out there.
Yeah, and, like, there's characters that are in the beginning of this movie that, like, aren't in the... Like, it's very... It's choppy and like it makes no sense. It's terrible.
I would say it's like an Ed Wood film, but that's like a complete disservice to Ed Wood.
But the funniest part is like on the Blu-ray, like they got the director to come back and talk about it, and like his memory is totally not what happened. Like everyone else basically disputes what he says on there. So it's like this release is, and it also has like a feature-length documentary about Bigfoot movies, which is awesome. It's a great release.
I haven't gotten around to like the features. That's like, I think this is the same people that did the Nosferatu in Venice we talked about last year.
Yeah, it was Severin.
They always have awesome extra features. Like Shout Factory does a good job with like bringing out films, but like they don't always have like super great special features.
They'll slap on interviews.
Yeah, but like Severin always is like, oh yeah, we talked to this guy or this person, and it's like with like. From watching all the stuff for Nosferatu in Venice, it was like everybody was shitting all over like Klaus Kinski, and it's like that kind of sounds like what happened with the director. Everybody was like disputing whatever that guy said.
Well, he just, I guess, misremembered, or it was a long time. So
he's like, I didn't remember exactly what happened when I made this Bigfoot film 50,000 years ago. But yeah, that's funny. Because, like, at the end of this film, the guy gets fucking roasted. He gets, like, Punishered.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot's like, say my name! And he, like, puts his face on, like, a hot stove top. And when he pulls his face up, he's literally, like, his face is, like, black.
It's melted.
Yeah, it's, like, black, charred. But, like, when they show him in the beginning of the film and they cut back to it at the end, it's literally just, he's, like this. Like, okay, so the top of his head miraculously was fine.
Became shredded.
Yeah. I thought it was funny at the beginning of this film when they first show the first person, like, Bigfoot view. It's, like, red eyes, but the center is clear. I tried for, like, 10 minutes to try to find if there was a medical eye condition that causes that, but I couldn't see it, so...
Research well spent.
Yeah. But, I put in the man hours to give you nothing. We've got our first mauling here. The fisherman, he was out doing his thing, and, you know, he gets mauled, his arm gets ripped clean out of the socket, and, like, blood pools right into a footprint, making a proper cast of a Bigfoot foot.
I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah, that was.
Like, that's an iconic image.
It's like, and then it was, like, black screen.
That's probably the coolest thing in this whole movie.
Oh, yeah,
like,
by far.
The most artfully done.
It's like Night of the Demon, black screen, red lettering, that was, for once, in these old films, not assaulting on my eyes. Random upbeat music and fast monster-style footage. Never mind, I fucked up and had it in 1.5 speed on accident. So, like, when they're walking, I was like, what the fuck is this? They were like, yeah. So, I wasn't going to put this in, but I was like, okay, I got to call out my fuck up, so... Also, there's a lot of
You're like,
ADR.
they weren't speaking English.
Well,
it turns out I had the Spanish audio on.
Yeah, that was fucked up. They go into the darkest room ever. He says, okay, class, and it's like, this is my first hint of ADR. It's like you said, this is like a film that was like Frankenstein together. So this guy, like, the teacher is, like, essentially, like, recruiting his students to be his, like, assistants in this Bigfoot
It's like a classic
thing.
setup to so many horror movies
Right.
and like movies of this type and Bigfoot movies.
He's like, we're gonna go out and find. You get extra credit for it and that kind of crap. And he hands out like these newspapers that he's like cut up and stuff. And I paused it here. It says, "Bigfoot victim, man crushed to death. Authorities will not speculate." It's like, then why did the paper print that? Fucking they think.
The authorities won't speculate, but they will.
It has been reported that a visiting camper was attacked and killed by an unknown assailant. It's like, okay, like, and they're like instantly like, it's Bigfoot. Bunch of other ones here. Known deputies at the scene reported great violence. The local coroner, Dr. Jeffrey Collings, reported death due to mass crushing. I was like, what? Which they didn't mention his arm getting ripped off, which means they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
I do like the idea of Bigfoot just stomping on a dude.
Yeah. Hey, he's got a big foot.
Exactly.
That's why I'll use it. Also, one of the article headlines just said lettuce. So, so we've got our next scene here where Bigfoot has his way with somebody. Couple having sex in the back of a van. Bigfoot opens the door and grabs the guy, and he's being killed. He's like moaning. It's like the audio is really like inappropriate for like what is happening. He's being killed. And he's like, oh, and I'm like, huh? That and
You
like
gotta have some gratuitous nudity.
the lady's acting is like, good lord. She's like for an hour. It's like, dude, come on. But that's why it's like, that's what makes it, I guess. Did you find that the audio levels were kind of like all over the place in this film?
Yeah, it's just sloppily done.
Yeah, like the music is super loud, and like the speaking is quiet, so it's like when the music comes in, it's like blaring. It's like, okay. They had a couple scenes that actually had some like really legit like outdoor footage.
Yeah,
on the river
again,
and stuff.
Set your movie out in the woods, and I'll love it.
It's like Boggy Creek or whatever style. This part reminded me of one of our old movies. They go and approach this guy they came out here to talk to, and they say, "Can we talk?" And he says, "Well, wish I had more time." Instant response, and he just like walks off. He's like, okay.
Delete that scene.
Yeah, I was like, does this movie have a script, or people just like riffing off of each other? It felt like that so much in this film. It's like, so we've got another. This is like the Jason sleeping bag kill here. Dude's in a sleeping bag, and he gets picked up by Bigfoot, and he swings him around for like 4 minutes. He's like DK fucking charging up his arm, and then he like throws him into a stick, and the guy instantly dies. It's like stick, and then he's like,
It's a good kill.
yeah,
Bigfoot style points.
yeah. There was a part where the movie went dark for longer than it should have, and I thought it was busted. I was like, Polly style. I'm like, she's busted. So the one guy, I do have to kind of give a shout out to one of the actors in this film. It's the guy that goes into the cabin and talks to the one guy, and he's like smoking. He's, I think, the best actor in this
That's
film
a good
by
scene.
far. Yeah.
I enjoy that scene. Like, as we're talking about this, I'm realizing I like this movie more and more. Like,
Yeah.
it's got some good stuff in it.
Yeah, like that was probably like the best scene of the film.
Yeah.
Or at least especially like that actor was like when he was talking to the older dude and like asking what happened and stuff, and he didn't want to talk to anybody before, but then he randomly talks to this guy.
Yeah.
But like he's talking to him, and it's like laying down exposition, and the guy's actually like pretty. It's funny that like
He's like, whoa!
yeah, this guy is like the best actor, yet they had the professor played by some guy that sucked, I thought. Bunch of random interviews about Crazy Wanda. Lady says her baby died at birth. Probably for the best. It was deformed. I was like, yeah, just kill a deformed child. And it was killed. Okay, so now we're gonna get to like one of the most infamous scenes in this film. Probably probably, I mean, if you're a horror fan, obviously you know about this scene. But, do you want to have the honors of this, or do you want me to go through it, or?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Bigfoot rips off a guy's wiener.
Yeah. You really gave it your all there.
Well, that's like the thing of this movie. Is that's the way I described it to you initially, remember?
Yeah.
The movie where Bigfoot rips a guy's wiener off.
As soon as like,
I mean, he grabs
So
it
as
like
soon as,
Excalibur
like-
from these, like...
yeah. As soon as like, I saw the guy talking about a biker, I knew this was the scene because I've seen like on screenshots of the film. There's a part where, like the guy's like, and it's like, okay, that's got to be the scene. Of course, they don't show it, but yeah, this guy pulls over to the side of the road to take a piss, and he pulls out like his actual dork, and like Bigfoot. It's funny because he actually lifts him up. He grabs him by his fucking like ding dong and like holds him up, and then like the guy's like walking away with a shredded like fucking dingus, and he's like, oh no, and I just have poetry.
Yeah, poetry in motion.
Oh no.
What would you say?
I'd probably be screaming, not just being like, oh. She's like the guy, like the lady that was on the grape thing and like fell down.
Yeah. That actor was, I guess, like in adult films, so he was like super pumped to show his goods on screen.
Yeah, I assumed because I was like, oh, okay, I haven't seen really a film, you know, like a horror film where you see like an actual private part. Usually you see a lot of like frontal nudity from women, or like, you know, a man or a woman's butt. I saw a butt.
Butt weak.
Hey, no buts about it. It's a blast.
But Bigfoot doesn't discriminate in this movie.
That's true.
His victims are male and female.
That's true. He's an equal opportunity killer.
I can't believe I haven't asked, but what did you think of the look of Bigfoot in this movie?
I was shocked. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
It's weird. It's a unique look. Because it's almost more Neanderthal style than ape style.
Yeah, it's like a
but it's scary.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because they talk about like he wanted to like, you know, he was the last of his kind, and it's like that almost kind of like makes sense if it's like a Neanderthal because it looks like that. It's literally just like a Neanderthal with like more hair on him. Yeah.
But I think it's effective. Like if I saw that dude walking down the street, I'd turn around.
Yeah.
The other direction.
You turn around and be like, you saw him. You're walking away from him. You turn around and walk to him. So cultists,
as opposed to another monkey man, who I'd be like, hey.
You're like, cultists recite Mosito, Loki, Thor, and I was like, okay, so this part of the MCU, the monstrous scripted universe.
Now that's an MCU I'd get behind.
That's true. So Bigfoot lovingly caresses a man while he's making love and puts his claws into the back, but like doesn't kill him. And like this is a guy that like disappears in this film. They put like cornmeal on his back to like heal him for no reason. I'm sure it was something, but it looked weird. But like this is one of the many people that just they must have been like, okay, I got like a day, just kill me and I'm done.
Or they just abandoned the set. Like
right. I'm like, the set was indeed abandoned. Same woman that we told you about was going to get raped in that ceremony. Random line after, we appreciate it. I was like, you couldn't have like cut that together. It sounded like he appreciated the idea of that. Mm-hmm. Shows her a cast of Bigfoot print. She freaks out. A guy goes, damn, I'm sorry. I should have known better. Like, just like that. Screamed it. What the hell, dude? Sorry. And it's all in slow-mo, too. So it's like, is this supposed to be, like, a joke? Like, it's funny.
As you said, just, poetry.
Yeah. There's no doubt we're in the same territory where hunters disappear and people get killed. not far from here is a woodsman, was horribly mutilated. It's like, this is when the professor starts telling, I mean, maybe he's already done this. No, this is like multiple times later, but he's telling these stories, like you said. This is how they're adding in these spice up the movie kind of things.
Gratuitous violence.
Right, because like you said before, there was none of this. It's one way to do it. Guy gets axed to the shoulder, instant death.
It's a good kill.
Yeah. First chop looks kind of lame. It literally is just like nothing, and then like you just see like an axe come towards the camera, and it's like he was destroyed. And I'm like, okay. Then like instantly,
here's some axe action in the
I know, right?
other yard.
Better watch out. We hear another thing about Girl Scouts go missing, aka they're like adults. So it's like
this is like
Scouts.
This is when I saw the Girl Scouts come in. I'm like, this ups the sleaze factor of this movie. Like,
shockingly, they didn't like do anything like that I thought was going to happen. Thankfully, but like
save that for later.
Path forward for the group. Bigfoot makes them stab each other. He just like stands in the middle and he's like,
so funny.
It looks so stupid, but it was hilarious.
Turns them into the double Dutch rudder.
Made no sense. He was just like grabs their hands and he's like, and he's just like, the funniest thing is you get like a glimpse of his face and stuff, and he's just like, looks so fucking stupid. Also, this line cracked me up. Bigfoot's not messing around anymore. I'm like, all this happened before you got here. Which once again goes to show, like you said, that
because when he ripped the guy's arm off at the beginning, he was messing around.
Yeah,
he was like,
yeah. Once again, this just goes to show, like you said, why this makes sense that this movie was stitched together. Like I kind of assumed, is like these people that filmed this had no fucking clue what was going to be put after. So when he said that, I was like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
This guy says, beats having 2 guns and no ammunition. So you're telling me you came out to the woods looking for something that has killed before and you didn't bring ammo for the weapons? Like, oops. So they come into this lady's house that's like insane. They restrain her and break open a padlocked door, and I was just like, good lord.
This is where it gets pretty dark.
Yeah.
It takes a dark turn.
Yeah. So they flash back to this lady that's kind of been like, she's had a mental breakdown to like what happened in her past. And she's the oldest 15-year-old I've ever seen in a film, because it's literally the same actress playing that role. And she gets pregnant. Like Bigfoot rapes her on her front porch, and the dad's just like watching and doesn't do anything, and he like blames her for it. And he shoots the Bigfoot after he's done, and I'm like, but like even before that, like I guess she's going out with a guy, and the guy's like he's like a zealot. He's like essentially has a cult following, and he like essentially like is like slaps her. He's like, lying bitch, like you were going out with this guy and stuff. And like essentially she has this Bigfoot human hybrid, and he like munches it, and like she is like, you know, super sad because even though she was like raped, it's like her child. And like it's actually kind of sad because it's like the Bigfoot keeps like coming back to her house because he like likes her, like he has feelings for her and stuff. But like he just lets it happen, and then as the movie continues, it's like you find out that like he didn't die accidentally in a fire. The like daughter locked him in like a room and like burned him to death, and I was like, fuck yes, this is like the greatest thing ever. Fuck that asshole.
Yep, he got his just desserts.
Yeah. And it's like the best part is like he's like praying to God, and it's like, dude, you're the fucking idiot that like deserves this shit. Like what the you know? It's like, come on. But like he's I thought it's funny because he's like, help me God, and he puts his hand out, and his hand's already turned into like a monster hand. It's like burned. If your hand was that far gone, you wouldn't be able to like fucking talk. That's what was fucked up.
Yeah, the one mistake in this movie.
As this movie continues, I wonder myself if a Bigfoot rape was really needed. Was a flashback sequence really needed?
None of it was needed.
Was a religious subplot really needed?
They just went for the sleaze in this movie, and
Yeah.
like, it doesn't get any sleazier than that.
I pray to God this movie ends. This movie is 1 hour and 39 minutes. It feels like 10 hours.
I would disagree with that. I thought this movie's, like, for all of its flaws, it was entertaining to me throughout. Like, I couldn't believe what was happening one scene to the next.
Yep. I also couldn't believe it. So they dig up a corpse that's apparently supposed to be like the baby that was buried, but it's like a full skull of a cow. And I'm like, eh. They're like, she was telling the truth. And then Bigfoot shows up instantly and he's like, yo! And then he gives up pretty easily. He looks like he's going through someone's wallet. He's like... And then he, like, runs away, but then he comes back and just starts, like, going ape shit. Pun intended. So, we've got, like, an awesome scene here where some dude, like, has a... the professor has a complete fuck-up and they just leave it in the film. It's, the lady, he goes, what do you do with them? Like, the things that, like, the Bigfoot brings to, you know, the gifts. She says nothing. What do you give him? When he brings these things. Like, don't want to do another take? Guess not.
It was just too real.
It was just too sweet. So, like, the guy that disappeared earlier, you find out that he like crashes through the window or something, or like flies down, and he was like tied up. Like Bigfoot tied him up. I was like, okay. Bigfoot like uses tools in this, so he's not like an idiot. At the end of the movie, he starts using all kinds of stuff. He's like John Wick. Somebody goes nuts on the synthesizer. Bigfoot stands in windows looking around for an hour, then slow-mo chucks someone, and they leave her for dead.
Yeah, so you mentioned the synthesizer.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was very effective. Like, it's kind of droning, like, weird noises almost, and it's like, it adds a creepy atmosphere to the scene. I like that quite a bit.
Let's see here. Yeah, like, that's probably one of the funniest things in this movie is when, like, they're all running and they literally, like, pull the door and leave that lady to get killed. And they're screaming, like, oh no! And it's like, okay. And then he just comes through the door anyway. He, like, disembowels a guy and he had, like, jelly in his stomach somehow. It was, like, totally unbelievable.
He loves Smuckers.
Yeah. But that's when he pulls out the intestines and he's like...
He's literally like...
Yeah, it's so stupid. Dude gets his neck slit on a window that his head went through. He's like... You got pitchfork through a lady's back. That was legit. Professor keeps screaming, no! Let me go! No! Yeah. Let me go! And then he gets, like, Punishered and his face is burned to a stove, like we said. Cuts back to the hospital and he's totally fine. One of the last lines, the doctor says, I have no choice but to certify this man as criminally insane. Like, what?
He has no choice.
Yeah. Sorry. They've got a gun to his head. Ooh, man. So, yeah.
Yeah. To me, like, the thing I'll remember most about this movie is the rampage at the end. I think it's really crazy and cool.
Nobody has a damn, like...
He goes through him like Steven Seagal,
yeah,
dude. Like,
nobody has a
they don't have a chance.
Nobody has a damn choice in the matter. It's just, like, over. Next. Yeah, it was, people were getting reamed, brah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what I remember about this film, like... Definitely, like, I don't know, like, all kinds of different weird stuff, but...
Yeah, I mean, this movie delivers on the Bigfoot violence in a way that some others don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess this is a part where we give the film a rating.
I will go 7.95.
Cool.
It's a cool movie if you like sleazy trash, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
And Bigfoots.
Yeah.
Doesn't skimp on the Bigfoot action.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. I wrestled with this a lot because I enjoyed watching it, but I also, there were parts where I was kind of bored with it. So I don't want to give it too low of a rating. Maybe I'll split the difference and go like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something.
Alright.
I was going to give it 4 at first.
It's your choice.
Yeah. I don't want to give it too low a rating. I mean, I don't like hate the film, but you know, it's not like a movie that at the end of the movie I was pissed. It was just kind of a film that once I watched it, I was like, oh, that was cool, but it's like Nosferatu in Venice. It was kind of a shit show. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. We already talked about it, and there's a lot of things in it that, like, you know, were cool, like the Bigfoot, some of the Bigfoot kills, and like the absurdity of like how people talked in this was pretty funny, and like the lines that were given, the acting. It just, for me, it wasn't like a troll or a room where it's like rewatchable. And I think that's the only issue that, for me at least. Your mileage may vary, definitely. If you're into, especially if you're more of like a horror fan and you'll watch kind of like you just gotta watch anything horror and you just love the genre. Which, like, I'm a huge, you know, we're both like big horror fans. I think maybe just maybe if I was like younger and we were like in high school or a little bit after it, I might be a little bit more lenient on it. But yeah, okay, that's my explanation.
Cool.
So I guess we should get on to what we're doing for next week here.
All right.
Unless you have anything else to say, I think we've kind of done a good job.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to say about Bigfoot in general?
No, I think this is the definitive work on Bigfoot, this podcast. We solved all the mysteries.
We told everybody we really don't believe in Bigfoot. So next week is going to be Alien Week.
Alien Week.
Alien Week.
Take me to your Alien Week.
Take me to your best podcast, Buddy Shotz. So it'll be. I'll let you talk about or say what your pick is for next week.
Plan 9 from Outer Space. Plan 9 from Outer Space. Ed
Like,
Wood's masterpiece.
Yep, 1957, and then I picked Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978, the I guess remake. You okay?
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I've never seen it, and I'm pretty excited. Until next week, this is Buddy Shots Podcast. Halloween month. We're going to be continuing scary films all month long. I can't wait. Don't get scared. Check us out on YouTube and Twitch, Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, wherever Steak Beaumont 64 is sold. And we'll be up on Tuesday, guys. Bigfoot is real in our hearts.
That's true.
I know. So I'll go ahead and let you say the last scary line. Or not line, just say whatever you want.
I just have one thing to say. Bye.